purpose is inherent and purpose is not alien. Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of the Trinity Podcast. And just in case you're new, my name is Church, and I'm a very big fanatic of purpose. This is a topic I've been studying for the past 5 years, and in the process I was led to start an organization called Trinity with a very audacious vision of helping 2 billion people maximize their potential from understanding their reason for existing in the first place. And so if this sounds like an amazing vision you'd love to be a part of, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and of course like our videos. And so in today's episode, we're looking at how to know if your passion is your purpose. But really, before we go ahead and examine if your passion is your purpose, I think it's important that we need to redefine passion. And so passion is just a strong expression of an emotion towards an activity, something you find very easy to do, something you just love doing, and hobby, one thing or the other that you found yourself doing so many times. And so that is really what passion is. And so having to consider if passion is your purpose, we need to also reevaluate what the concept of purpose is. So purpose is just basically what you've been called to do in and for God's kingdom. And so if God has called you to, say for example, He has called you to go into governance, but to represent His kingdom, and you notice that right now you already have a passion for governance, that is the passion in the direction of your purpose. Or really, when it comes to purpose discovery, I want you to know that passion is a package that gets delivered with. Say, for example, if you order something on Jumia, say, for example, you ordered a phone, a wristwatch, or any commodity of any kind, and then it gets delivered in a Jumia package. The Jumia package represents your passion, and then the product inside represents your purpose. So usually, more often than not, your purpose will be wrapped in your passion. It is impossible for you to have a purpose that you are not really passionate about. In the course of this video, we'll be examining 2 case studies that I would love to explain to you and show you how that your passion will come as a package in which your product or your purpose will be delivered. I think another point that we need to examine before talking about if your passion is your purpose is the fact that purpose is inherent and purpose is not alien. And now this is what I mean. A lot of people think that what God has called them to do or what God's purpose or plan for their lives will be something that they do not like. And that is why a lot of people shy away from this topic of purpose or calling. There's this cliche vibe of there's a call of God upon your life and you're thinking, I'm going to end up a pastor. I'm going to end up a bishop. But it doesn't have to be that way. I know there's been so much wrong interpretation of what God's calling is to us. But I want you to know that your purpose will be inherent. Your purpose will not be alien to you. Take, for example, the camera I'm looking at right now has a lot of attributes: a shutter button, the lenses, a screen to view what the video that is being taken. All of these are what comes in the package of the camera. And so from the look of the camera, you could just tell what the camera should be. When you look at a knife, you could see how sharp and how precise the edges are. You know this thing can cut. When you look at a football, it's round. You know if you leave it and apply a little force, it will roll. And so every single product or every single thing that exists right now in all of existence has in it or has around it attributes that points to His purpose. So purpose is inherent. It is impossible for God to demand of you what He has not already placed in you to be drawn towards and to be able to enjoy and love doing. Although there are a few exceptions, but
Hold on. Before we continue, we have a newsletter for you on Substack that talks about personal life issues. Use the link in the description below to subscribe.
And so more often than not, the people or the persons that thought that their purpose or something they would not like, eventually when they discovered and I began to work in it, they found out that it was something they actually did like Moses, like Esther, and so on. We look at 2 case studies moving forward. So I want you to understand this. Your purpose is not alien to you. More often than not, the passions that you have right now, your purpose will either be a combination of multiple of them or an expression of one of them. So your purpose is not alien to you. You can scan through all the passions that you have, the natural abilities that you have, the things that really catches your attention easily, and you can spot your purpose from one of these things. So the big balance between purpose and passion is that your passion accompanies your purpose. So more often than not, for the third time, you can find out what your purpose is by just making sure you find out your passion behind the things that you do. So look out for your natural abilities, your talents, the things that you do with ease. They are pointers, or let me even dare say, they are your purpose. So to actually present this case further and judge if your passion is your purpose, I'd like us to look at two case studies. The first one is of a very gentleman. His name is Moses, the character in scripture. If you're a Bible student or if you've ever at some point entered the church or attended a Sunday school service or a Sunday school teaching, you probably have heard of Moses, a man that God used to deliver the Israelites from the Egyptians. So it all started with Moses being born at such a time where Pharaoh was threatened by the strength of the Israelites. And so he ordered that every child who was 2 years and under that was a male that belonged to the Israelites should be executed immediately. And so when Moses was being given birth to by his mother, she loved him so much because in quote, the Bible said he was a bright child. There was just something different about him. And so she hid him in a basket, kept him by the riverside. The princess of Egypt found him, took him in, raised him, and Moses grew up to be a very strong man, a very handsome, strong man, right? And so one day, he was an Israelite, but by adoption, he was an Egyptian. One day, he was walking along the slave areas where the Israelites were enslaving the Egyptians were enslaving the Israelites, sorry. And then he found out that they were torturing the Israelites, and there was just something within him that just sparked. It was like, this is wrong. And I'm guessing when he happened again, this was the second time I believe, he looked at the Egyptian, had no apologies, went straight ahead, killed him, and ran away. And so a few years later, he had an encounter with God on the mountain, so a burning bush experience. And he discovered that his calling, his purpose was actually to do that which he did out of passion. And so Moses' passion was actually his calling. You see that few verses prior, few chapters prior, he did something out of sheer passion. Few chapters later, he found out that what he did was actually God's calling, even though the approach was different and wrong. But what he did was actually his calling. And so, I want you to know that with one of these cases I've just mentioned, Moses, you can see that more often than not, for the fourth time, your passion should be, could be, can be, and more often than not, for the fifth time, will be your purpose. It might be the combination of many passions. It might be the execution of a dormant passion, but it will not be alien to it. It will be something that you would find to a large degree enjoyable. That is God. That is how God wired us.
Do you want to discover purpose? Do you desire to maximize your potential? Are you interested in joining a community of purpose-driven individuals? Click the link in the description below to subscribe.
Second case study I want to talk about is actually a character in scripture called Queen Esther. By the miraculous workings of God, she found herself in a palace as the queen of a king. And there was something the Bible said about her. He said, and that was when her uncle was speaking to her. He said, it could be that God has placed you in the palace for such a time as this. I'm sure she didn't know that she was coming into the palace to serve God because she just thought she was going to be a queen that will help God's people. But that passion drove her to take that role. And in the process, she found out that this was actually God's calling for her life. And so for the seventh or sixth time, more often than not, your passion will be your calling. Your passion will be your purpose. Your passion are pointers, big pointers to what you've been called to do. And so you can't neglect them. You should pay attention to them, pray about them, and check with God to see if they are your calling. Apostle Aaron will say something. When you find a passion that refuses to die, and you notice that way, anytime you pray about it, it gets more, check it well. It's your calling. Whatever you've been called to do, you are either dissatisfied with it, you enjoy it, or you just have a prompting to want to do it always. That is how God wired us. And so as human beings, we are products of God's own creation. He has placed in us passions, which serves as the package that envelopes the product, which is your purpose. And so I hope you'll be able to see and learn that your passion is not just a pointer. More often than not, for the eighth time, is usually your purpose. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the very end of this episode. I hope you've been able to learn. Share with your friends, your colleagues, your classmates. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe this episode. If you want to listen to it on Spotify, the audio version, you can check out Trinity Podcast on Spotify. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode.
E for energy.